Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another week. Wow. What a beginning to 2025. Never thought it would start in this way, but boy, has it started. As many of you know, around the world, Los Angeles has been really tragically affected by wildfires this last couple of weeks. I mean, there are still actually embers smoldering, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And we have had red flag warnings for the last 2 weeks on and off. Some of us have lost our power, our gas, our water. Some of us have lost our homes. Thank God, touch wood. My home is okay. And my partner Hoodie's home, which he lost in the Woolsey fire, is still standing. So we are amongst the very, very lucky ones. But many, many people, so many people have lost their homes and their physical communities. And that's what I wanted to talk today. I was just mentioning to Barry that the sense of community, that can never be destroyed. And you may have lost your home, you may have lost your town even. I mean, the Palisades is decimated, and so are parts of I'm forgetting the name, near Pasadena. Pasadena and Altadena. Right. So yesterday was the first day since being home after being evacuated for a week that I have actually stopped to breathe, because the second I got home, I went straight into volunteering for a donation center, organizing all the clothes, people from up north sending U-Haul trucks full of things for us, and all needs to be sorted through and sized and put into categories and things like that. So I've been working, putting this donation center together it was 5 days straight. And I was very aware that, well, I can't even tell you, I'll tell you stories about this last 5 days, but it was really when I stopped yesterday that the depression hit me. The full force of what we're living amongst hit me. And I realized it was because I was alone. And I wasn't with my community of friends who were all helping out too. And it was such an incredible team. Oh my God. World Central Kitchen, I have to give a massive shout out to. They are incredible. If you don't know them, it was started by Jose Andres, providing food for displaced people that displaced, for the firefighters, for the people that are volunteering, for anybody actually. They don't even care. They just feed you and love you, and it's the most incredible organization. And then you're seeing all these firefighters from all across the United States, all these different colored trucks, from yellows to reds to oranges to greens. It's just incredible to witness. And it was such a sense of community. And then obviously being able to help people who'd lost everything and dress them in brand new clothes. They were crying. They were like, oh my God, with all this devastation and loss, I can't believe you're making me look so good. And it was just so uplifting. So Barry, I know that you donate your time every Saturday in volunteering. So join in here and just let's talk about the sense of community that is so important during hard times.
Yeah, first of all, just maybe preface it by saying where I live, I'm far enough away that I'm not impacted by the fires directly, and I haven't had to do any evacuations, although we have definitely experienced the witnessing of it. Where I live is about 6 miles away from the actual center of the fire, for the Palisades fire, and the car was covered in ash, and I wore a mask most of the time I was outside because the air, you could smell how thick the smoke was. And I have pictures I took just from where I hike across the basin to see the fires ravaging the hillside. So it was very impactful that way. And so many people I know, dear friends of mine, and places I used to go visit, are no longer there. So I definitely feel it from a one step removed experience. But I certainly appreciate how you feel being right in the middle of it. Um, the the thing about community, and I want to actually speak about service as part of that,
Mhm.
is when if we feel like we're being hard done by or being victimized or losing out, one of the best things I've discovered to get us out of that rut is to go help somebody else.
Mhm.
Whether it is a dedicated thing that you do all the time or a thing you do once in a blue moon, or when you just feel like I need to get out of my rut, let me go, feed the homeless or work in an animal shelter. It's something that I think everybody should spend time doing in service somewhere, some shape or form. I personally, as you said, I've done a weekly thing now for well over a year this time. I've done others over years too, but this last year and a half, and I would do this every Saturday, is we help basically provide boxes of groceries to needy families. And we did have an increase in audience because we put the word out to everybody else. If you're homeless, if you've been affected by the fires, come on down and grab a box. Again, we don't have a discrimination either. It's like you show up, give you a box. And
Mhm.
so we've done the last couple of weeks. There's been an increase in numbers, and we'll keep doing it because we do every Saturday anyway. And so for me, the gift of that is such a joyful feeling because I watch these people drive by, and some of the time they're so grateful and so thankful. Some are just like it's just part of business. They want to get the stuff and go. But I
Mhm.
know that we've made their life better. I
Mhm.
know that we've touched somebody in a positive way. And the team of people, and sometimes we meet somebody for the first time who's jumped into the volunteer side. By the end of the 3 hours of volunteering, we're best friends because
Mhm.
that's orientation changes the relationships of the community idea. We have I've got friends of mine who showed up for the first time, and now like we're much closer friends because we both volunteered together. So working like the same with your friends, like serving together, making a difference together, it's a wonderful bonding experience. And yes, I know we talk about relationships a lot in our work, but this is about our own relationship with ourselves and with our community.
Well,
So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say that, and I totally agree with you, Baron. It is. It's like relationships. There's, we always say it: relationship with you have yourself, relationship you have with your intimate partner, with your family, with your friend group, and
mhm,
with your community.
yeah,
And you also said something, and this is really important. We're not doing this for thanks from somebody. It's yes, it's very uplifting when you see people touched and impact in such a positive way. Of course, that's uplifting, but we do it for ourselves. It's our own internal barometer that tells us this is the thing to do, not for a reward, not for thanks, not for anything, because it helps us so much. And I've witnessed that with a few people I know that have suffered, and they're not. I mean, let me preface this. I'm not a public griever. I'm actually quite private. When I grieve a loss, like when I lost my mother or my sister, it's not something I put on Facebook. I don't know why. It's like I sort of grieve. That type of grief is very, very personal to me. Having said that, I will absolutely share that with my community of friends and my support system because um, I know that they have helped me through the worst times in my life, some really tragic things that have impacted me so badly. And
mhm,
without that community, that love of I call it my community that have supported me during those times, I could really see how depression can just take you down to the place where you don't want to be here anymore. So it's not saying that you have to grieve publicly, but know that there are people that love you and want to support you. They're
mhm,
there for you. You give them something when you accept their support. And my family right now are like, why do you continue to live in Malibu? Why do you continue to live in a place where you have earthquakes, there are fires, and really, what is it? And I'm like, my community. I love
mhm,
my community. And it would, it's all of us are just like, we're not going anywhere. We know what it takes to live here, and we know the cost. And but I don't know anybody that's saying that's it, I'm out of here. I mean, people not that I know of have felt that way and are doing that, which is fine. You've got to check in with yourself and see where you're comfortable. And if you are traumatized by these fires, which we've had two in Malibu within the last 2 months that have burnt houses and killed people. Um, Unfortunately, most of the people that have died because of the fire, they felt that they could fight the fire. and saved their homes, and they lost their life in attempting to do that. And as for me personally, no bricks and mortar or wooden houses, as in
Yeah.
in California, is worth risking my health or my life for. Getting my family out, getting my two big fat cats out, my dog. I have some very funny stories to tell you about my cat. Oh my God. We we lost him twice in hotel rooms. He managed to burrow himself in not even the box spring of the bed, beneath the box spring, which was a totally enclosed wooden area. Oh my God. And he wasn't even meowing. I mean, how I even thought to look there in the end, after searching the whole hotel, was a miracle in itself. But yes, I felt absolutely at peace for those 7, 8 days we were in a hotels. We were in 3 different hotels, believe it or not. But
Hmm.
I had my partner, I had my son that lives with me, and I had my 2 cats and my dog, and I just felt like, "You know what? This is it. It's all
Yeah.
I need in life is this love." And we stuffed in together, and we were just, we were just marinating in love and gratitude, which is gonna be our next show, so we're not gonna go there right now.
But I
But,
want, but I want to speak one little thing that also on this piece, because the thing about community that I really get is it's part of us. Part of the thing about community is you've also got to be willing to humble yourself, to be willing to ask for help, but also you got to humble yourself in a way to be accessible, because some people go through life feeling so like superior or they got it together and it's perfect. They don't avail themselves of that connection or that service or that orientation. So for me, community is about not so much like showing like what you've got and how good you are, but how good you are because of how you help, how you contribute, how you serve. And what I love about you said about the community, and I have different form of community here because we have local neighborhood. We're in a small cul-de-sac. We and this is off topic of the fires, but we have had 2 to 3 like block party celebrations, whether it's July 4th or Labor Day or just some other thing going on, where we basically get to know each other so well. And that, what I love is, and it's very true for you too, is that outside of those situations, we stay connected.
yeah,
Wave, go by in the street, have conversations, walk across the street, say hi to each other, and that's part of community, is to keep the connection going. Because the other thing is that sometimes communities get birth during trauma, emergencies, or suffering. But when it's over, don't give up on community, because sometimes you go back to your old life again. It's like, no, maintain the community, because that's gonna get you through, like you're saying earlier, that you have someone to lean on, your place to go, no matter what's going on. So I
yeah,
think community is important to maintain all the time.
yeah. You said something, Barry, about, humbling yourself, and I also wanted to add something in there. I grew up in a what I considered, for me anyway, as a child, a very traumatic environment where we
Mm.
were, not only was I rejected by my father who lived a couple of miles down the road, but by the community. We were scorned. My mother was the other woman, and we were little bastards or whatever you want to call them. And the community rallied, actually, this is interesting, around my father's wife and family, in the sense of they they thought what was happening between my mother and my father was awful, and it was very, very painful for his family. And I have absolutely nothing but compassion for his family and what they went through, with a very public affair and 2 separate families. um, but I grew up terrified of community, because to me, community, well, not only in the house where I lived, where we had homes for, our home was for used for, at the time, mentally disabled people. So that in itself was scary. The outer community was scary. So I grew up super self-sufficient, not leaning on anybody, not what, I don't know if the word is not trusting, probably was, if I'm going to put a word on it. Community terrified me. It absolutely terrified me. I would get anxieties, like social anxiety, about being seen or being in community. And it took me many, many years to really lean into community, trust my friends and my extended family, and think, well, when I say extended family, extended, those are my friends. But so sometimes it's not born out of pride, it's born out of fear. that you didn't never had that sense of safety growing up. So why on earth, when you were at your most vulnerable, would you then, you know, um, reach out for help or support, because you're so traumatized from it not being there when you were younger, or being attacked for it. So there's
Right.
that part too. But I also wanted to bring up again about this community, and it's completely off. The topic isn't the fire; that just what initiated this. But you know how they've done all those studies on the blue zones and how many people, longevity and why people, and initially it was thought to be diet. It was all about, oh, the Mediterranean diet, or the, Okinawa diet, the fish and
Right.
vegetables and things like that. And I don't know if you ever heard of this story, but there's a place in, I think it's in Pennsylvania, where this whole Italian village moved en masse many years ago to this mountainside region in, I think it was Pennsylvania, or the Ozarks, or somewhere like that.
Right.
And having been married into an Italian family, a family dinner is at least 20 people every night. They all like to live in the house next door or the street
Yeah.
next door, and you have dinner every night together.
Mhm.
And they saw that in this village, that even though their diet, they weren't eating Mediterranean diets necessarily anymore. Their diet had become quite westernized, but they were still living to over 100. And they said that the reason why was community,
Yeah.
is because they stayed doing exactly what I said my ex-husband's family did, which was eat dinners every night together. They gathered in community. And it was that sense of belonging to something bigger than just yourself or your immediate family that actually gave people a purpose
Yeah.
and support during hard times. And that's why they live so long. So there's many benefits to community.
Absolutely. It's funny because I was just reflecting back because I said about how, where I live currently is a sort of a cul-de-sac, sort of smaller area, which I love. I grew up in one.
Mm,
My, back home where I grew up, my first 18, 19 years of my life. And there was something about that small enclosed, even though it was still open to the street sort of thing, you still leave. But it was like nobody else came down the street. Really, it's all our people sort of thing. And we stay connected. And I remember the kids I grew up with were all within about 3 year span, age group wise. And there was something about that support structure that really did make a difference. It was like, even though I went to school, and I said before on the thing, I got bullied at school and everything else. So school wasn't as joyful as it could have been. But it's coming home not just to the house, but to the street where I lived. That community landing place was something I realized looking back was one of the things that got me through my childhood and my teenage years, because it was safer there than elsewhere. And so that community place of safety and comfort, like you're talking about with the can work, for me, it did work that way. And as an adult now, that's what you're experiencing too, is community is such a gift when it's um, explored and facilitated from a place of wholeness and place of caring. So me, the community has such a gift it can give when it is something inclusive, additive. Because yes, there are definitely some communities that are um, antagonistic to each other, to say the least.
yeah.
But the positive ones, definitely.
Well, and you're going to get that. We always say that tragedy brings out the best in people, and it can bring out the worst in people. I mean,
Hmm.
I again working at this donation center. Um, you have to, because I worked at the one with the Wolsey fire when we had the Wolsey, which was the end of 2018, so 6 years ago, and it went for about 3 months or so, and we had incredible donations. Donations from LA, clothing manufacturers, and not just LA, I think other people, mostly LA, downtown based clothing manufacturers would send us boxes of new clothes with tags on, and so incredible of them to do that. But we did notice that there were people coming that were claiming to have, and you can spot it because it's like all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like, in a minute, everything in your hands has got a label on it. And you've got from size 0 to size 14. It's like, I really don't think all of this is for you and your family. And we really cottoned on pretty fast to some people who were deliberately coming to these places to get brand new clothing that had been donated to then resell on eBay or whatever. And
Yep.
was heartbreaking. It really was. I mean, but you had to let go of that. You had to say, okay, for 99% of people here are incredible, and they are in need, and they are grateful, and what we're providing is going to the intended receivers of this. And there are going to be a few people, like
Yeah.
the looters that are going on right now. It's you have to just see that the good far outweighs the bad. It's unfortunate that does exist, but the only
Hmm.
way to put out that darkness is to bring in more light, as we always say. More
Absolutely.
light, less darkness. But
Yeah.
but again, going back to the sense of community, I think if there are people that are there to take advantage or are not good for you, that just because they live close to you does not mean they're part of your community. Community is an emotional connection between
Yeah.
people that love you and support you and will be there for you. And I love also what you said, Barry, about the neighbors and things. I'm very close to a couple of my neighbors on either side. And while we were evacuated, I happened to have a generator, but just because I just got out of here with my animals. I don't want, especially with cats, they hide when they're frightened. And like I said, try finding a cat once they've hidden. It's not an easy thing. But I was basically, here's the code to my house. Use my generator. A friend, their generator broke. They came down. They took my generator because they hadn't evacuated. We'd had all our gas turned off because the gas lines were damaged, as well as our electricity. And another neighbor was here to let the gas, because if you missed your turn, you're going to have to wait like 2 weeks to 4 weeks to get your gas reconnected. So she was amazing. She came into it. She helped, get the gas people. I mean, I actually managed to get in return to my home about 15 minutes before the gas repair people came in. So I was like under the wire. But she had all the information to get into my house. She knew where, to show them and everything. And again, it's so important, not only for the emotional support, but for things like your animals. Some people had to evacuate without their animals. And and again, it's that knowing who to call, knowing who to ask to look out for your pet that may have escaped. And we're talking about big tragedies right now, but just even in general. I mean, before these fires, my neighbor's dog was really yelping one day, and I'm like calling her saying, "What's happening to Bobo?" It's like I think he's got tangled in something, and thank goodness she was able to get back and in time and make sure he was okay. So it's all those little things that go on throughout the year. It's not just in huge catastrophes that we need each other. And so I love that, and it's keep it going.
Yeah. There's one thing I'll add to that too, because somebody said about the people who came to poach at your um, volunteer donation stuff. We get that too. You know, we beside, in addition to the grocery food we get from the food bank that we put into boxes and give out, we get a lot of other things coming our way too, and especially in this time, a lot more things like clothes, but also diapers are very big. That's a common thing that we have because a lot of families have young kids.
Mhm.
But we've had to have people now in charge of the diapers, like who keep track of who gets them, because there are people who basically get the diapers to resell them.
Yeah.
It's about a valuable thing. I didn't know. I had no idea. Facebook Marketplace, whatever. So we have the same sort of thing where we have to sort of patrol, because the thing is for us also, we want to make sure that the food and everything we have goes to the people who need it.
Yeah.
And and yes, like with the cars that pull up, and it's interesting because I've watched this since the beginning of doing this way back, over a year ago. The cars, because we have basically when we set up the shop, we have a line of cars that pulls up and also a line of pedestrians that shows up. So two different groups. Pedestrians are just a mass of people. We can't really tell, but the cars pull up. The variety of cars and the range of quote value of the cars is quite amazing to watch. And
Mhm.
so we have people pull up, beat up cars that are blowing out smoke, or would pick up trucks because they're gone, whatever. Then you get like a Tesla or a Mercedes show up. It's like, it's like a year old. But of course, somebody said, it's like, yeah, you can't eat a Tesla. So
Yeah.
so they might have the money for the groceries. They might have the car, but not the money. So it's like I had to let go of the assumptions that were being made. And one of the things I was talking about with community is that it's sometimes challenging to want to sort of pick only the best people out of your community because they're the nicest or they look good or whatever that is. You might discover, though, community comes from the people who are the least likely ones you'd think were the right ones. They just show up because their heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing we talk about is community is really heart-based. And that's why we want to make sure that's anchored in people who are hearing us, is that the connection we have with people, it really is heart to heart, not like because they look good or they've got the right house or they have the right car or whatever it is. It's about who they really are. Like you're saying with your friend, it was the woman who was just a marvel. She was the one that did everything right, that helped you out, got your gas done or everything else, on all sort of things. So it's really about the heart connection that makes community work for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, and what you were saying about and I think that's why I do love my community so much because it's people hear the word Malibu, they think everybody here is wealthy, and that is so not true.
Right.
We're Malibu is, well, it used to be 27 miles, and all of a sudden they changed it to 21 miles, but it's 21 miles of coastline. And up at the far end where I live, it was originally in the 50s. It was just where it was very working class. It was all sort of blue collar workers lived here. It was outside of town. It was affordable. It was, but you had to drive to get to work and do those things. So and those families have been here, for generations. And then we have an awful lot of homeless people too. And again, that was the other thing. We, had this beautiful man, Jeremiah, with his two dogs. And he was just hanging out with us, and we were making sure that he was fed and that, he got new clothes and blankets, and his dogs, I can't remember the name of the dog. One was called Joy. She was this little blonde, fluffy thing that was very sweet. And then a pretty aggressive pit bull type dog too, who he wasn't aggressive. He was just barking a lot. But, Jeremiah was just nothing but light. I mean, absolute light. When I talk about community, I'm talking about everybody that uplifts your life, whether you are unhoused permanently or temporarily or whatever it is. We are very, very well central kitchen too. They were feeding the unhoused, not just people that were due to fire. Just an incredible organization. I mean, it was just, when I first heard about it, I was like, feeding in disasters is not the last thing on, but they were
No,
just
essential.
oh, it's just incredible. And just again, a place that's bringing together and feed, and the food. Oh my God, the food was like absolute incredible restaurant quality. We were like, are you kidding me? This is like, it was, and they changed the menu every day. And so I really, really, that's become one of my monthly donations for sure after that experience with them. It's definitely so a wonderful organization. And, even like, and the other thing I just want to mention here, not wanting to get political, but Mexico helped us out.
Yeah,
Firefighters from Mexico.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Israel sent fire experts to help us and, best tackle the
Yeah,
fire.
Ukraine up there too.
Well, Ukraine, yes, exactly, Ukraine.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it was such a huge, and to see that, to see how all these sort of issues were dropped and there was this collective, like, we're needed, let's just let go of certain things and just come and help. So yeah, I am just
So basically, so
incredibly
basically saying, so basically saying it's a global community.
so a global community, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, be discerning. Don't
Mhm.
we all have our talk our little light bubbles where we our little bubbles where
Indeed.
we let
Yeah.
lovely bubbles come right next to us, but we stay contained within our bubble and of who we allow really close to us, and that those the ones that bring the negative energy or are not there for the right reasons, we just blow those bubbles away. They can hang out in another people's bubbles
There you go.
into my bubble.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is it for today.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk next week, Barry, about gratitude because,
Yes.
again, I was so aware how Absolutely, gratitude has got so many of us through this tragedy that we've all experienced. And whether you're 6 miles away or you know right in the thick of it, it's impacted all of us for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you, everybody, and hope to see you next week for our show on gratitude.
See you next week.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.